Welcome to the Configure Price Quote Podcast. My name is Frank Sohn and I'm the founder of CPQ Consulting. This podcast is 100% focused on Configure Price Quote, also known as CPQ, and will provide you useful insights into this topic. My guests today are Garima and Pulin from Pixtech. Garima is the co-founder and COO of Pixtech and is based in Pune, India. Welcome to the CPQ Podcast, Garima.
Thank you.
Very excited to have you. And she is joined by Pulin Kumar, co-founder and CEO of Pixtech, and he is based in Austin, Texas. Pulin, welcome to the CPQ Podcast.
It's awesome to be here. Thank you.
Very excited to have you both. And we talk about Pixtech. Pixtech positions itself around AI-driven fair market value intelligence and IT asset lifestyle circular economy program. So for today's conversations, I like to translate that into where does Pixtech touch quoting, pricing, offers, and the product quote to cash flow, and what that means for CPQ team. So I hope that will be an interesting episode for everyone. Let's start with Garima. And what did you do before you started Pixtech, Garima, and what pushed you to take the leap into building your own company?
Thanks, Frank. My journey has been from flight attendant to an entrepreneur. What pushed me? I would say as a woman, perseverance became my greatest strength, turning challenges into opportunities and dream into reality. That was it.
That's obviously enough. So excellent. But what companies worked you before you founded Pixtech? Is there anything worth mentioning here?
Sure. So I started with Jet Airways and Air Sahara, where I used to be flying crew. And then I moved to Pune and I started my career with the BPO industry, which was known today as EXL, and spent about 8 to 10 years there. And then moved to Intercoms, where I met Pulin. And that was completely a different industry. So from flight attendant to a BPO industry, which taught me a lot about knowing the customers, doing customer delivery, understanding the process reengineering, and then moved to technology side of work with Intercoms, where I worked very closely with large high-tech industries like Dell, and from manager operations to business development. And then that's where I met Pulin, and I used to travel a lot to US and bring those customer accounts and then deliver from here in India. And that's where, that was my last company. Then Pulin and I decided to start this company.
Very interesting story. I think it's a very unusual episode for the CPQ podcast today. So I'm very much looking forward to that. Thanks for sharing. Pulin, how about you? What did you do before you founded Pixtech?
One word, I worked my ass off.
Okay.
And I didn't realize that I'm going to be working even more when I start my company. But, the excitement levels are completely different. So depending on how much time I have, but when I started my career in finance. And that's where I met a computer for the first time. And I was so fascinated that a year later, my boss gave me a appreciation letter, and I gave him my resignation. He said, "You didn't even see it." I said, "I don't need to see it. I need to know what's happening inside this box, that magic happens." I quit my job, went to learn it, assembled computers, learned programming, learned everything that it had to be. I even taught it. And then while I was teaching it, I was also in a job where I was working for some other company. And whatever money I got, which I got from teaching, I would pay the salaries to my fellow people, because the guy said, "Hey, I don't have money, but I want to build this." So I said, "Yeah, let's build it. And when the money comes, we'll split 50-50. Money came, but that guy then took all that money and went away and left me hanging with the cost and the people and all of that. So that's when I realized, there is one of the things that I'm passionate about is people and how to build world-class solutions and world-class outcomes. That is what my passion is. And over many companies, large like Accenture, Wipro, and small startups like Intercoms and Dot Extra and Infonox, I essentially honed more of that expertise around people and driving solutions. And then last company, like Garima said, we were driving a lot of solutions. And then I called her one day. I said, "Hey, do you want to start a company?" She says, "What, you've gone crazy?" I said, "No, we know it all. Let's start a company." And the very next day, we started the company. And that's how it started. But all the career has been in tech industry, except the first year in finance.
Very cool, very, very unusual story, right? So, but very exciting story. Also, let me ask one thing. You already mentioned some painful points. What was the most exciting point for you so far, Pulin, in the story of Pixtech?
In the story of Pixtech, the most exciting thing I would say has been building the business ground up. And everything that you take for assumption in a job is not there, including where the next coffee is going to come from, who's going to pay for it. So when we started the first 3 months of the company, Garima and I would work, and we were obviously not taking any money, but we would work. And over the weekends, I would drive Uber to just feed, put enough money on the table. And I did that for 4 months. And after 4 months, I had to sell the car, so no more Uber. But the exciting part was it was never with a doubt of, hey, it won't happen, we won't make it, or that doubt was never there. It was always, let's do more, let's do this. And over a period of time, we've achieved great customers, we've achieved great people, and a great product.
Excellent. And I think that the interesting part for me about that is not just a typical motivation speech, right? So because it's a real situation, you really have to struggle through it. So you have to have commitment to do that. How about you, Garima? What was the most memorable moment in the Pixtech history so far?
I would say for me, the most exciting piece had been we got a business problem. How do we solve it? How do we solve it keeping customer in the mind? So, because I'm based here with the team, every day is an exciting day because there's so much of collaboration which is happening day in and day out with the team that, hey, this is a business complex problem. We got to deliver in this amount of time. And how do we do it best that customer would want to work with us and would want to expand with us? And one of the things which we have worked very closely with the team is that we are not just building solution for now. We have to think about the future and provide that wide range of solutions so that it's scalable for the customer as well as for us. So I would say taking the strategy to execution, collaborating with the teams, dealing with so many people and personalities, and then coming out as winner has a great, great feeling at the end of the day. And I would say that word perseverance, I really hold very close to my heart in everything I do, whether in my personal life or whether in my professional life. So I would say the most exciting piece has been perseverance and keeping at it.
Excellent. And now let's ask you both one more question before we talk more about Pixtech, and that's what do you like to do when you don't work? I still hope you have some time where you don't need to work. So what do you like to do when you have that time? And let's start with Garima on this one.
Sure. So if I'm not working, I have a routine and I go by the clock. I am literally so disciplined that I have a wake up time, then I'm too much into fitness and meditation. And I love to learn new sports. I do spend whatever time extra I have, it just goes in my fitness. So you can call me a fitness freak. If I'm not working, all I'm doing is fitness. Like yesterday, I was meditating and I was like, I got this thought that, hey, I need to pick up my racket and start playing squash. I used to play it a year and a half back, and till I got some knee pain, and then I stopped. And now I want to pick that up again because it's summers and it's a high intensity game. I love playing sports. So that's what I do. I do also watch sometimes TV, but I'm not a very TV person. Not I do read book, but I generally read more spiritual kind of books. So fitness and my meditation keeps me going. I think fitness brings resilience in me, and meditation brings calm in me. So both together helps me fight day in and day out and keep my perseverance level up.
Excellent. Excellent. How about you, Pulin? What do you like to do when you don't work?
What I would like to do right now, there is no such thing as anything but work, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
But what I like to do is road trips.
Yeah.
That is something which I always dream of. I have probably 50 road trips on my bucket list. And that is what, and I like to get on the road rather than fly to a place. Even if it takes a day or 2 days, I prefer being on the road because the amount of cultures and people and stuff you see, you can't experience it any other way. So every weekend, which is really right now, these are all dreams, which hopefully they come true maybe in a year's time or so, but road trip. And there is no such better place than America to do these road trips.
What's the next road trip you will do when you have time?
Alaska, see the Northern Lights.
Oh wow, that's a long trip for you out of Austin to do that. I wish you good luck with that. So but
I would do that. I would do that. I have even mapped Alaska all the way down South America along the coast.
Oh wow.
That's a month-long trip. Not happening. It's anytime soon.
I see that these are not just a little road trip, right? So a week or two that's taking longer. Anyway, thank you very much for sharing both to do that. Now let's talk about PickStack. I think what's interesting for our listeners is this is not a typical clear-cut CPQ story, right? So therefore I would like you to explain a little bit what PickStack is, what it does, and how it relates to CPQ. I'm not sure who wants to talk
Let
about
me
that. Yeah.
let me take that first. In PickStack, essentially, you can look at it as, I would say, we are trying to solve the problem of the used IT asset industry, and we want it to be the last unpriced market. What I mean by that is, look at us as what Kelley Blue Book did for the car industry, used car industry, where they put a benchmark and a standard pricing. In the used IT industry, there is no such benchmark that exists currently. That's what we are doing. So that's why I call it we want that to be the last unpriced market. And in this industry, there are thousands, hundreds and thousands of configurations that get traded. And every transaction, every trade is basically negotiated. If there is a benchmark, then those negotiations accelerate, the asset flow accelerates, and business accelerates. That's what we are about, is how do you drive that standard, that benchmark? And PickStack is that company that builds that. And then there are different ways you can engage with PickStack.
Yeah. And I think we should go a little bit deeper into that so that for everyone the CPQ connection is clear, right? So it's used IT equipment that's being resold, right? So, and you want to have a standardized price for it according to the similar to the Kelley Blue Book. For anyone in the US, that's for cars that describes the value of the car, right? So, but now tell me from your point of view, what's the close connection to CPQ here?
I would say CPQ and PickStack are mirror images, in the sense the cycle gets completed with CPQ on the front with Pixtech at the back. So it's a full circle as the forward and reverse supply chain. And I know I'll let Garima answer more, but that's how I see it.
And just to add to what Pulin you said, I would say CPQ, like it is configure, price, and quote. Pix arm is acquire, route, and monetize. So you acquire the assets once they are either end of life or end of their refresh cycle. You acquire those assets, you route them, whether they need to be routed for reselling, for refurbishing, or recycling, and then monetize them, whatever assets can be fed back into the system or into this ecosystem. So that's how I would relate, and like exactly what Pulin said.
If your company is evaluating CPQ and you're not sure which vendors are actually worth your time, try the free Novo CPQ Briefing Match app. You answer a few questions about your business and requirements, and it gives you a more focused starting shortlist of relevant CPQ solutions. It's meant to save time, reduce noise, and make early CPQ research a lot easier. Go to novocpq.com and click on the CPQ Podcast page to find it. Tell me a little bit about your ideal customer profile here. Who is that? What industries are you targeting mostly, customer size and geographic region that you focus on?
So our customer ICP is across the globe. The industry which we are targeting is OEMs because they are the original equipment manufacturers. So they do have a large volumes of assets coming back every month from their existing customer base. So that becomes our largest customer base, I would say. The second would be ITADs, because ITADs are the processors and they are the ones who are taking those assets back from OEMs and then processing those devices and then feeding it back into the refurbished and other markets for resale. The third one would be VARs, which is value-added resellers, and that's also one of our ideal customer profile. Besides that, there would be retailers, wholesalers, also that gets added into this ecosystem. But I would say the largest are those top three: OEMs, ITADs, and VARs across the globe.
Excellent. So now that we hopefully everyone understands what Pixtech is doing, let's talk about the company itself a little bit more, right? So when was the company founded?
2018, I would say.
2018. Okay, so you've been around for 8 years now. How many employees do you have and where are they located?
So we are about 75 to 100 employees, and the majority, I would say 80%, 90% of these employees are based in India, and we have about 10% in the US. In India, it's pretty much all over the country.
But the main office is in Pune.
The main office is in Pune, yes.
Good. So now, when many people hear AI and IT asset lifecycle and don't immediately think CPQ in 1 minute, where exactly does Pixtech show up in a customer's quoting and pricing workflow?
Right at the beginning, all the quoting that happens at the configuration level.
Yeah.
So, one of the biggest things in this industry is people get a whole lot of configurations or a whole lot of asset details, but either there are gaps or they don't know what the systems are like. So right at that point, which Garima mentioned as acquire, right at that point, what Pixtech does is fills all those gaps, gets the fair market value, and also gives the indicator to whoever is the buyer what ideally a good price range would be for them to acquire it, and be able to also map it to eventually when they are recycling or refurbishing and selling, what the margins could be. So right at the beginning, the decision making at business level is where Pixtech comes in.
Excellent. And when you say, just to clarify that, right? So because fair market value may not be necessarily a very common term in CPQ, right? What decisions does it power that are quote critical, right? So you have price floor, recommended prices, trade-in credits, buyback terms, eligibility rules. Tell me a little bit more about that, please.
Sure. So PIX FMV, we look at it as a heart of our PIX ARM platform. It is feeding in the market intelligence and the pricing intelligence at every decision which needs to be made at acquiring, at routing, as well as monetizing. And that's where our AI-powered engine in the coding process is mostly coming up in terms of how do we price it essentially, as well as I'm just trying to relate it to CPQ, because when you are configuring and pricing and quoting, that's pretty much the flow we are also, because the pricing is based on thousands of devices, which are then further broken down into variety of configurations.
And to add to that, and again, from your CPQ listeners, right now, let's say in CPQ, it's about how do you configure and how do you price and how do you shorten that sales cycle. In this case as well, this bidding and the quoting sales cycle could go on for weeks and thereby losing the business or losing the customer to somebody else. What our platform does, and because it's AI driven, it brings that pretty much real time or the same day and gives you a benchmark where you know what you're quoting against, even if those assets are not familiar to you. A lot of people tend to go with what they know. This opens that horizon that even if you don't know, but you know what the benchmark is and what your revenue or margin would be at the end of it.
And let's dig a little bit deeper on this AI talk, right? So because that's also a very big discussion point on all CPQ platforms right now, how to use it, what to use it. Tell me a little bit more how you use it in your platform.
So our pricing, the FMV, which we call the heart of our platform, we process millions of price point every day. And with that, we apply the deterministic mathematical models to come up with a fair market value, which gives a directional number for all our customers. And then based on their business rules, they can apply their logics to come up with the right buyback value or a buy sell range value. And that's where our power of the AI powered engine is.
That is one, what Garima said. One thing is on the platform itself, the PIX ARM, route and monetize, the applications are all AI driven. So they can connect very quickly with the customers' existing applications through APIs and all of those are agentic applications. So it doesn't take any time or any complicated configuration mechanism.
Then let's have a look also at the real world, right? So with your real customers, what breaks most often in that world, right? Is that the data quality is not good enough? They have problems with change management. They have model drift, any kind of edge case. I was just wondering what these cases are and what you do to mitigate them. Is there anything that's worth sharing?
Okay, that's a very interesting question. And sorry if I would go into a little bit tactical details, but the data in this industry is very differently captured by everybody. And that's the power of an AI engine, which translates, no matter how the data is presented to us, how we can relate it to bring the FMV for each of those configurations. And the use case would be mostly at quoting, and globally, I would say with different languages as well. We translate those languages back into the English, language, and then translates that information and provide a FMV. So the complexity, or I would say there are thousands of configuration written in thousands of different ways, but looking for the same information. And that's where I would say the use cases majority remains the same. It's the different way the input is fed into the system is very widely stored today. And there is no standard format as well, what we are looking in this industry. And I don't think so we can get to a very standard stage very soon. But that's where the AI agents and our solution come into perfect place. How do we translate that information to provide real-time fair market value?
And so that is one. The other thing is the knowledge around all the different configurations. Most people have I would say, comfort zone or comfort area where they know these systems. They know, let's say, a particular brand or a particular configuration. In most business then happens in those. What the block is if something new comes in or if something different comes in, even though there is opportunity to make money over there, the confidence is not there because the people are not very well versed. And that is where this system and this platform helps in scaling those opportunities. Otherwise, those get left out on the sideways. And so that is why what the platform would do, though it's benchmarking, but it is also scaling the transactions. And that's a big next step from data.
One more point I would want to add to it is the trade-in solutions, the C2B, as well as the SMB, which is small, medium business, because once you have a layer of fair market value, it can get integrated with any kind of trade-in programs, any kind of reseller programs, any kind of small, medium business programs. And those are some of our customers we are working currently with. So those are more upcoming.
Excellent. Now, let's close out here with a question about the future, right? About AI and what you think what that will do for you in the next 2 to 3 years, especially concerning, I guess, AI-driven pricing and valuation intelligence. And I would like to hear what you both think to this topic. I'm not sure. Let's start with Garima on that one.
What Pulin started with, I genuinely believe that this is the last major unpriced market in this in tech industry, and I don't think so that's going to be true for a long time. What I would see is what I would love to see is a standard playbook that the whole industry moves towards, a financial trust layer that sits with every customer and makes the buying and selling decisions faster and fairer and not just to make margins. I would also want to bring in the AI piece to it is going to be very, very crucial in this industry. How do we bring AI to not just scale the operations and efficiency, but also generate real-time value which a customer can rely on? And what I would want to leave this podcast with is sustainability and profitability are marking in the same direction. And when you can prove it with the number, you don't have to convince anybody. Numbers do the job themselves, right? So that's what I would say.
Excellent. Very good point. Anything to add, Pulin?
Yes. Where AI is driving the future, one, I see CPQ and what we are doing at PixArm, these reverse logistics, connected as one solution because AI can do that. People may not be able to, but AI can do that because it's growing at a enormous speed that we can't really understand. And as a company, we have 100% adopted AI. And thanks to our coach that is doing that. Where I see the future of AI eventually, you won't have a lot of these breaks that, okay, I have to give it to this guy, I have to do this. The whole industry becomes a unified industry from forward to reverse. And it runs through rules, through engines, through AI, and essentially people are there to define the guardrails rather than doing the work. All the work would be done by AI engines, but people are defining the guardrail. So everybody will level up. That's how I see it. And once that happens, I will also get time to go for my road trips. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Excellent, excellent. No, super interesting to talk about this, but I think we have to come to a close. But one thing I would like our listeners to understand is also where do they have potentially a chance to meet you or your teams face to face? Is there anything that comes to mind here in the next 3 to 6 months?
LinkedIn is the best thing, and also a website. Those are the things. And
we will be attending a lot of upcoming conferences. One is happening in Nice, which is ITAD Summit. That's where we can, both me and Pulin would be there. So we are looking forward to meeting people. Also in August, there will be another summit in Las Vegas. That's also on our plan to be there. So yeah, we will be out for some of these conferences.
Excellent. We will have these links in the show notes. And what's the best way for folks to get the hold of you if there's any follow-up questions for you? Let's start with Garima here also.
I would say drop in a message on LinkedIn.
LinkedIn and my email, pulin.kumar@pixtech.com.
Wonderful. And we will have all this information as always in the show notes. Thank you both very much for making time for the CPQ podcast today.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to thank everyone for listening and hope you learned something interesting today. If you like the podcast, please go ahead and rate it on iTunes or share it with your friends and colleagues. In the meantime, you can find us online at www.novocpq.com. So long, everyone.